My wonderful, beautiful, amazing Capricorns. I'm Gabriella from Gabriella's Vampire Tarot. For today, I'm going to be doing your general reading, your past, present, future, your 9 card spread. I'm going to be using the regular tarot to clarify with the vampire deck, draw a special vampire card, draw a vampire oracle, and then finish off with 3 yes or no answers for thee. So, let's get started with your reading. The general card is the 5 of Cups reversed. Let's look at the first row, which is also your past. I'm not allowed to show this, but the Sun came up reversed. Leo energy. Justice upright, Libra energy. And 5 of Pentacles, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo energy. You know what I'm kind of getting here? Is, it was pretty much time, to actually we'll make this big change, this big transition of whatever and wherever was taking you. Because the thing is, like sometimes, when the sun is down, the moon is hopefully up, or either way, the stars are up, as a means to guide you in other ways. I mean, this could have also taken place on August 9th during the Aquarius full moon. But what I mostly see here is, it's like, well, you had confidence and, bravery in other ways, and a sense of stability and justice of actually, just wanting to we'll take off and head away from this 5 of Pentacles. Because the thing is, when you realize that, there's actually an important saying, I think. It's called, or something, it sort of goes in the sense, when something is a bit too uncomfortable, well, that's the moment to strike. Or the moment to leave and stuff like that. Because the thing is why would you want to actually be leaving something when it's already actually working for you, where you're comfortable, where everything is just benefiting you and stuff like that. But the moment where you could be potentially heading off towards a sense of poverty, that's a moment to actually take off and say, we're going to try to either avoid this incident in other ways, or we're going to just try to, mitigate it as much as possible by curbing, potential big losses for that matter in other ways. Now, of course, you could also have earth, air, and stuff. Because in current times, you get 8 of Cups. You're definitely heading off towards a different direction. Because you pretty much just think, okay, I'm not going to be suffering. Or maybe you have suffered, from some financial problems. But now you're relocating or heading off towards a different direction. You do have a sense of feeling a bit unstable and a bit anxious about, your whole voyage for that matter. And especially with the Page of Wands reversed afterwards, it's like, of course, you could definitely have Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio, a Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo, and Aries, Leo, Sagittarius placements. But what I'm mostly seeing here is you pretty much feel uneasy because you want to head off towards a different direction. But yet with the Page of Wands, either A, you feel directionless because you pretty much just think, I don't know where I'm heading off towards. B, you feel unprepared. So the thing is, if, well, mind you, and this is only just a suggestion because I would never order anybody around for any reason, but if you're planning ahead, maybe if you're planning or facing some potential crisis situation, always remain calm and stable and grounded. Don't allow yourself to, suffer or, will go through any kind of crisis moments where you're pretty much running around thinking, oh goodness, we're just going to have to close our eyes and just hope for the best and stuff like that. No, because if you feel unprepared about any kind of voyage you're heading down towards in other ways, and you pretty much already have this uneasiness about it, I would really look into any kind of quests, any kind of plans that you're going to be heading down in other ways, because otherwise you might end up just, facing bigger problems along the way, especially if they're unprepared. Now, in the future, you do get 10 of Wands reversed, of releasing burdens and hard work, though you do have the Page of Pentacles. It could be a beautiful desired outcome of not having to be dealing with any financial, futures in that aspect. And then you get the 2 of Wands, actually literally heading out in the future. You know what I'm getting here? Is maybe you're actually, improving the future in there, because here you are finally actually releasing all of the stress. I mean, maybe you're actually kind of holding back in the future, but of course we still have the clarification to do. But what I'm actually getting here is that, you're pretty much kind of holding back and thinking, wait a second, okay, maybe this whole 5 of Pentacles is not that big of a deal or a crisis moment that you're, that we're going to have to escape or head away towards and stuff like that. Because here, it's like with the Page of Pentacles, this is where you're pretty much either returning back to home base or wherever, it already started off in the past. But either way, it's pretty much just thinking, okay, well, right now, this could also be a beautiful desired outcome of not having to be heading off towards any more financial endeavors for that matter. But it could also be that you pretty much just think, what, let's just, shake off all of this unnecessary worry and stress with the Ten of Wands, because, obviously we're not getting that desired result and outcome in the future. And so let's just head off either back to home base or a different route in the future. Okay. Well, let's do some clarification. The Sun reversed, you get the Star. Okay. Like I mentioned, when when the sun is down, the moon is either up or the stars are up. So this star could have already been a wish fulfillment, and maybe it was a lack of clarity wish fulfillment. But this could have already been the star that was actually guiding you towards, alternative options and prospects for that matter. But either way, what I like to see is that, okay, it's like sometimes when, the sun is down, there's always going to be some kind of, like, anything shining bright up in the sky, of course, you're probably going to still have, street lamps, will guiding you able towards any kind of direction, but you could also be heading to, towards, the guidance and support of any kind of star out there where you're pretty much just following the star in other ways because, it's like, either way there was some kind of guidance that took place in your past, whether or not you realized it or not, which is good. Okay, this is interesting. The Chariot with Justice. You were incredibly motivated and ambitious in the past, and that's what the Justice card was also about, is that you pretty much just thought, okay, we're incredibly motivated and ambitious because either way, it's like it could have been a star wish fulfillment that was actually working out for you, or it could have been just that the stars were mostly guiding and illuminating their light for you to say, okay, this is where you're going to have to head down towards. A sense of clarity in other ways. And so here you are pretty much balanced, you're grounded, you're realistic, you're rational, and here you're boarding this very passionate and driven, chariot heading off towards any kind of direction of your choice and choosing in other ways. And that's what I love to see, is sometimes, it's like we could... will be faced with unforeseen and unexpected events that take place in a positive way, whether it's, the signs and symbols that pretty much just show up and think, okay, now we know where we're heading down towards in other ways. Fabulous. The Five of Pentacles, okay, you could have maybe faced some potential poverty or some kind of being left out in the cold for that matter, but you get the Prince of Scepters, the Knight of Wands. What I actually saw you doing is, you pretty much regained momentum in other ways. You pretty much just thought, okay, I'm not going to allow myself to suffer and struggle with any kind of financial crisis moments right now, because I want to actually live in a happier and healthier and brighter path for that reason. So, the thing is the fact that you even have the ambition and goal of wanting to actually change your fate. You don't have to be constantly going on actual, literal horseback for that matter, but you could still have the motivation and drive within you to say, I want to change my current fate. And 100%, it's always up to us and us alone to always be deciding, which direction we want to head towards. I mean, you could always ask other people for directions and guidance and support, but who's to say that their ideas are actually going to be benefiting you, right? But my suggestion in so many ways is always use your internal intuition. Because, where you're currently heading off towards with the Eight of Cups, new beginnings, new offerings with the Ace of Cups. Fabulous, because you are finally taking action. You're changing your fate. You're pretty much just kind of, turning the whole, event around in your favor, because this is what you're doing, is you're finally taking off. Because I love the fact that the General card is definitely about overcoming some form of disappointment and disparity as a current general thought for today's reading. But this is a fabulous, form of action that I love to see people doing in the form of improvement and development, is actually taking control in charge of your own current fate. For Four of Pentacles, you might feel uneasy and a bit unstable in the sense where you just think, oh goodness, it's like, this is where the prep work is kind of taking place, and you might feel a bit nervous and anxious. But be rest assured you get the Prince of Knives, the Knight of Swords, as support on gearing you and finding your motivation and inspiration again. Because, with any kind of new beginnings, the thing is with any kind of new beginnings, is there's always that bit of uncertainty, or not bit, but even a grand uncertainty of thinking, what if it doesn't work out? The thing is don't knock it till you try it. Nothing ventured is nothing gained. The point is, this is actually important. When you feel uneasy about something, that's the moment to actually get out and start heading off towards any kind of direction. Because, like motivation, you would hope it comes from desire and cravings. But motivation sometimes also comes from stress, anxiety, frustration, and worries. Like in my, for my, example, is I finally had to yank myself out of my coffin after 300 years of slumbering, because the thing was, at a certain point I thought, I can't just be laying here. I can't be, submitting defeat, because of some vampire that turned me. No, I was not going to allow that. I was finally going to take action and to say, I need to do something. And the thing is that's also an act of motivation, is where you finally have to face the negativity and then give yourself a valid reason on getting out. Sad but true. So here, you could be unprepared, or maybe, will feel directionless as well, because you get the Tower. Aries energy, one of my cards, sad but true. The point what I want to make is that, it's like, what I actually see you doing is, you're actually facing this big change. And this is kind of like a motivation in a negative manner, where you pretty much just think, I'm going to have to do something. When something feels uncomfortable, you're going to have to actually go out and start doing something. Because, it's like you don't want to be, stuck, when you know that there's a potential demolition taking place in your home base, where you pretty much just think, I can sit here and just wait for that wrecking ball to approach me. No, you need to get out and start doing something, whether it's mitigating, whether it's trying to curb potential disasters, or change your fate and fortune for the best. And since the general, message is definitely, the Five of Cups reversed, of overcoming disappointment, sad but true, we are forced to face these moments where we actually have to change, whether we personally feel comfortable or okay about it or not, or whether or not we're prepared. Because a lot of changes often happen when we're not prepared. I wasn't prepared when I got turned into a vampire, and I know thousands of humans are never prepared with any unforeseen circumstances, even in the sense of losing somebody they truly love. Nobody is ever prepared for that. Ever. I'm sure my parents and siblings were never prepared, for my passing or my transition in other ways. Because here you're finally letting go of all the heaviness, all the hard works and burdens, because you get the Two of Pentacles, finally managing your affairs, your responsibilities, your obligations. And this is what I love to see, is you're changing for the best. Of course, it's like you can be like this unhappy vampirist that's pretty much just kind of thinking, why should I even bother? Why should I even do anything? It's hopeless, it's pointless, this or that. It's too complicated. Well, because why would you want to even do anything in the first place? Why would you even have this such ambition and determination within yourself to actually want to reach out and do something? Because you personally know it. That's the reason why. It's because, deep down inside, you probably know the reason why you are heading towards this big change, and why you have so much determination and motivation on wanting to actually overcome disappointment. That's why. Because the thing is, you might not be getting, the finances, or, the job, or any kind of financial, recovery in other ways, or even offerings for that matter, because you're going to be going out on the voyage and boarding the ship of opportunity with the Three of Wands in the future. And I love that, and I find it so impressive, because this is where you're finally going to be starting in a fresh new beginning in the sense of Virgo season. This could definitely be like a Virgo's kind of card, because it's definitely an Earth, Pentacles kind of card in other ways as well. Of course, Taurus and Capricorn as well. But the point what I want to make here is, even though, it might seem hopeless, it might seem all, just too much and stuff like that, if you're about to climb this big, heavy mountain of whatever it may be, the thing is you just take tiny little steps, and just take little steps each time until you get there. The thing is you don't want to be overworking yourself. You don't want to be burdening yourself. You don't want to be exhausting yourself to the point where you just think, nope, I'm just going to crash and burn right here. No. It's just, spend about 10-15 minutes on any kind of voyage and endeavor for that matter, and eventually, you'll get that desired result. And then soon everything is just going to, run smoother and easier because you're pretty much in the routine of actually, of going on this journey in the future. Because, speaking of more journeys, for the Two of Wands, you get the Lord of Knives, the King of Swords. You are actually creating and establishing this very strong, beautiful, logical plan that you're going to be actually creating and manifesting in the days, weeks, and year to come for the next year cycle between 2025 and 2026. And here you are pretty much incredibly determined, ambitious, goal-oriented. You see this vampire, just going on horseback through this thunderstorm. No type of weather conditions should ever stop you ever in achieving your desired results and goals. I mean, of course, you don't want to be, just endangering yourself saying, okay, there are floods everywhere, but, Miss Gabriella told me just to, avoid any kind of, weather conditions and stuff like that. Okay, but my little tiny, fine print is here is make sure that you're 100% safe when you're approaching any kind of weather conditions. So I'm just letting you know that. But either way, I do see you pretty much just heading down towards this new opportunities and stuff like that. And it just looks like you're more or less regaining your sense of momentum again in other ways. And speaking of Virgo, you get Empress, new beginning. So this will definitely be taking place at least at the start of your year cycle, heading off towards the year 2026. And we're pretty much also in the also heading off towards, your birthday season, that we still have a couple more zodiacs to go before we reach yours. But otherwise, I see new beginnings, abundance, fertility, and so much more heading off towards you in other ways. And of course, this is your brother, sister, earth sign. Of course, you could definitely have Virgo placements yourself. That's kind of what I have for now. An oracle wants to actually finish off with Primal, connecting deep within, sacred dance, and instinct. And that's the thing is always allow your senses and intuition to guide you towards wherever wherever you need to head off towards. Because if you're heading off towards any kind of change, any unforeseen circumstance and stuff like that, the point what I always want to stress or, always add so much emphasis on so many ways is, it's like when something is a bit too uncomfortable, that's actually just an important moment to actually start taking action and doing something instead of just sitting there thinking all is lost. It's just a hopeless cause for me and stuff like that. So just, use your instincts, maybe, connect deep within to verify, whatever you want, wish, dream, and desire, stuff like that. And you can always do any kind of primal sacred dance if you're interested in those types of things as well. Okay. I'm going to finish off with 3 yes or no answers. Please feel free to pause this video and think about the questions you want answered. Because speaking of the second justice for number 1, you get a yes with justice upright. Okay, with 3 of Pentacles reversed, you get a no for answer number 2. And another no with the 2 of Cups reversed for number 3. Okay, my beloved, beautiful Capricorns, I'm going to have to leave it at this, but if this reading resonated for you all, please feel free to join and subscribe to my channel. I want to thank all the Capricorns who have subscribed to my channel so very much for your love, support, and devotion towards my channel, including myself. In a few days, I'm going back to love reading, so for now, I'm just doing general and love. And if anybody out there is interested in a personal reading, there is a web link that the human had, posted, but he and we collaborated on the prices and stuff like that on the different types of personal readings. I mean, sometimes I just can't think or talk for anything, but anyway, if you're interested, please feel free to browse the prices for personal readings. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me. I love you guys incredibly, and best of luck on this very beautiful new beginning.